Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Baseline. Hope everybody's having a great day. Today, we're going to be talking about Russia's endgame and where America's blind spot might be, and what the Ukraine war really reveals about the global power structure that we're in right now. Now, what if I told you guys that the war in Ukraine, it really isn't just about Ukraine? What if I told you the evacuation of 200 towns near Sumy, the largest drone strike Russia's launched to date, and the silence from half the world's capitals in response are all symptoms of the same bigger truth? That truth that America, the superpower, the world's sheriff, the empire of don't worry, we've got this, has officially lost the room. Now, Russia didn't just bomb Kyiv last week. They sent a message. 406 drones, 40 missiles, multiple ballistic warheads fired in the middle of the night. Fires across the capital, a 16-story apartment torn to shreds, 4 dead, over 20 injured, and Ukraine called it the largest coordinated air assault since the war began. And while Russia, they claimed it was self-defense, a retaliation. But this wasn't really about self-defense. It was about dominance. Now, Ukraine responded with, some might characterize as desperation. I don't know what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section. But Zelensky practically on his knees asking the West for more weapons, more sanctions, more pressure, the kind of plea that's becoming routine. And every time it reveals the same thing. This is no longer a war between two countries. It's a global stress test. And the West, some think, is failing. Now, if you want to understand why this moment matters more than any other since the Cold War ended, you have to step back from the headlines, put down the sound bites, and see the full picture for what it is. Now, because we're not talking just about Ukraine, we're talking about the foundational myth of Western supremacy coming apart in real time. And it's not happening on a battlefield in another part of Russia. It's happening in the boardrooms, in the voting booths, in the press releases, and in the back channels of diplomacy the West no longer seems to control. So do you guys think that analysis is right, or do you think the United States is still the main superpower? Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section. I'd love to know. But let's talk about Sumy while we're on the subject, right? 200 villages ordered to evacuate. Now, that's not a tactical retreat. That's a population drain. That's what happens when you know the enemy's coming and you can't stop them. And while Russia, 20 kilometers out, moving slow, not because they can't go faster, but because they want us to see them coming. So this is a form of psychological warfare on a national scale. Russia isn't just invading land, they're invading confidence. And the media still acting like Ukraine has a momentum. Now, some people think it does. Some people think it doesn't. Let me know what you guys think. Because I'm not sure if it's a fair fight or not. And it definitely wouldn't be without the United States. But anyway, let's put it another way, okay? Imagine if hundreds of towns in upstate New York suddenly evacuated overnight because a foreign military power was 20 kilometers away. Now imagine the rest of the world shrugging and going, and went back to arguing over TikTok bans. That's what Ukraine is living with right now. Because meanwhile, the United States is sending aid packages like it's writing checks from a bank that hasn't balanced its books in decades. And every shipment makes one thing very obvious. The United States has become reactive, not proactive. It doesn't control the pace. It doesn't define the terrain. It's watching a war unfold from the backseat with one hand on the wheel, pretending it's still the driver. Now, is it still the driver or isn't? It's debatable, right? But this war is definitely taking a lot of twists and turns, and this new Russian attack, it's pretty crazy. So, and this is where the story is also going to turn a bit, guys, because Russia doesn't care what Europe thinks. It doesn't care what we tweet or how our late night hosts feel about things, right? Russia cares about the rest of the world, the global south. And yeah, the term you've heard tossed around like it's a throwaway geography lesson, but it's actually where the game is shifting. It's being played. So Brazil, India, Iran, China, the Gulf states, Africa, these aren't side players anymore. They're swinging the vote. Now, guess what? The tough part about all this is they're not siding with us. They're watching, calculating, and it seems as though they're quietly moving their chips across the table. Now, Russia's building pipelines, trade routes, military alliances, and they're not doing it on Twitter. They're doing it on tarmacs, on ports, on contracts. So the United States, they still seem to be playing public relations chess while Russia's playing logistics. It seems to be two different games that are at play right now. And here's a real world example, guys. Okay, India just signed a long-term crude oil agreement with Russia at a discounted rate. Meanwhile, Washington is too distracted arguing over whether TikTok is a national security risk or Gen Z's digital playground or whether Musk and Trump's divorce and how that's going to end. But meanwhile, back home, our military strategy is starting to feel like a group project led by kids who never showed up to class. So the generals are political appointees. The think tanks are funded by defense contractors. And the people that are making the decisions, they're reading Cold War manuals in a drone war world. It's a different time. Now, our Pentagon, they seem to be still talking like warfare is linear in nature, like it has a front line and a ceasefire. But this isn't Normandy. It's a different type of warfare. This is information warfare. Energy blackmail, cyber attacks, drone swarms, and economic attrition. So we're trying to solve it with press releases right now, and it's tough, right? So what if we were to get brutally honest about it? So let's get brutally honest for a moment and think, right? When was the last time the United States won a war? Not just invaded, not just deployed, but decisively won with a treaty, with results, with the world applauding instead of cleaning up after us. That's a hard question to answer, right? You feel that it's awkward. It's an awkward silence because we all want to be on the side of the United States, but that's where the point lies, right? We've lost the muscle memory. We don't know what winning looks like anymore. And the rest of the world, it feels like they kind of know it. So here's another example. It's hard to look at, but look at Afghanistan. 20 years, trillions spent, thousands of lives lost. And in the end, the Taliban took back Kabul faster than most people can name 5 US presidents. Meanwhile, Zelensky is doing the rounds. United States tour, media blitzes. He's playing to Western audiences who've started to tune out. But here's the harsh truth about the whole thing. And I think this is somewhat of a good truth too. Americans don't want another war. They're tired. They're broke. America has its own sons and daughters. And they're wondering why milk costs $7, why their tax dollars aren't going to fix they can't even locate on a map. So while we debate aid bills, Russia continually digs in. This isn't just about Ukraine anymore. It's about reshuffling of power, a restructuring of alliances. And I don't know what the United States plan is, but the United States seems like it's playing like it still owns the board. And I'm not sure that it does. What do you guys think? I wonder. So let's go deeper. What does Russia really want? It wants to break NATO's back without ever touching Article 5. It wants to bleed Ukraine until it's a husk while offering enough negotiation bait to stall Western resolve. And I think it also wants to reshape the map without rewriting the rules necessarily. And it's doing it, like little by little, disciplined, bomb by mom. And this is what we're doing. You want to know what you're doing? We're watching. We're just watching it unfold. And here's a scary point to have to make. Iran is paying attention. Don't think Iran isn't paying attention. I bet they are looking at this with eyes wide open. So is China. So is North Korea. They're all watching the United States' reaction to Ukraine and taking notes. Because if the United States won't step up decisively here, it won't step up in anywhere else either, right? That's the message. That's the real world test case. And this idea that we can just sanction our way out of conflict, it seems to be obsolete. And we're up against hybrid warfare. It's technological, it's ideological, there's economic blackmail involved, and the United States is throwing press conferences at a machine that eats policy for breakfast. So where does this end, guys? Does it end with a new world order? Is that where this is heading? We hear that term thrown around so much about a new world order, but something does seem to be shifting. Now, not the new world order, it might not be declared with flags or bombs, but with trade routes, shifting alliances, and a fading credibility on the part of the United States. Now, the U.S. can still lead, but it can't do it like it's doing right now. It can't be from a place of assumed dominance and not with empty threats or half-hearted commitments. And certainly not by underestimating nations that have studied our playbook for 70 years, especially the Chinese, right? That is a disciplined culture because they're not just playing catch up anymore. They see an opening and they're playing to win. And I think that if we don't evolve fast, the next conflict won't be about Ukraine. And what if it's about us? Anyway, I know that's a lot to drop. Put your comments in the comment section below. Let me know if I'm completely off on this. I'm completely hoping and willing to be wrong. Educate me, guys, right? And in any event, I really appreciate you guys watching The Baseline, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys on the next episode, okay? Cheers, everyone. Thanks.